comment, and members of the public have 3 minutes to speak on an item that is not currently on tonight's agenda. Okay, the first hand I see is Katya Deniergard. Give me a moment, Katya. I will. Okay, you have should be able to speak. You're welcome to unmute yourself. Yes, we can hear you now.
Right. Hi, I'm Catherine Deniergard, and I wanted to talk about transparency, particularly as it relates to the sudden demise at your last meeting of the Finance Committee. Last fall, in the heat of the election, Director Shara Swat and I had a brief disagreement on Nextdoor about the Transparency Certificate of Excellence awarded to the board in September. And my feeling is sort of like in talking with the board is it's like a funhouse mirror where everything is distorted. The certificate says transparency and I see nothing but opaqueness. And, you know, Director Shara Swat on, you know, in this social media site said everything I said was wrong, and I didn't understand what she was saying. Mutual, and it's my feeling is that I, as a person in the public, is totally shut out of the information flow. That we're not getting information, we're not seeing how things are done, and that you on the inside are getting all the information. So okay, you feel it's transparent, but it's not transparent out here. And this has really been brought home by how both you went about getting rid of the Finance Committee and the fact you got rid of the Finance Committee and how important the Finance Committee was to be able to inform the public of the budget process and all of the financial statements that the public, I think, has a right to know so that the board's finances with the taxpayer money is transparent. And I'm going to trust you to tell me when my minutes are up. And so I would, what? Say
You've got
again?
2 more.
I have 2 more minutes?
You have 2 more minutes.
Wow. Okay. So I would like to see the board reopen the discussion of the Finance Committee because the agenda item was hidden. Nobody even knew it was there. The public did not know it was there. And this is, again, goes to back to the lack of transparency, you know, in the funhouse mirror. And to start the Finance Committee again and have more members of the public on it and be more forthcoming with, you know, cash position and cash flow and, you know, all of those good financial instruments so we, the public, can see what is going on. And I'm going to say on another topic, I want to talk briefly about professionalism in the police department. Yes, that the board majority has talked a great deal of wanting more professionalism in the police department, and various interim police chiefs have characterized their predecessors as unprofessional, and other members of the
Your time is.
Oh, it's up. Okay. Well, yep. I think that's a problematic thing that I'll have to talk about at another time, that actually the old style of service had more service to the community.
Okay, thank you. David Bergen, you are up next, and you should be able to speak now.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. I couldn't tell whether it was being recorded on my iPhone. I just checked on my computer and it is being recorded. Thank you very much. So I have no need to speak at this point.
Thank you. Okay, give me one moment. I do not see any more hands up. I hope that is correct. Oh no, sorry, Linda Lipscomb, hold on. Okay, Linda, you can unmute yourself and make your public comment.
Hi there. Good evening. Thank you all for being there. I would like to join Katya in decrying the elimination of the Finance Committee. I feel this is a serious, serious error. We obtained a significant amount of expertise from the Finance Committee and a palpable understanding of the very complex accounting and budgetary proceedings and product that was made accessible to the public. I join Katya in saying that a transparency certificate means nothing if in practice it doesn't translate down to where the rubber hits the road, and that's with the public. The Finance Committee was able to do that. It was able to provide professional expertise and lay expertise in a way that was very palpable, very accessible. And I would urge you strongly to reconsider the abandonment of that standing committee. As I remember, it was the last of the standing committees, the demise of all of which I am sorry to see. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your service.
Thanks, Linda. Okay, I'll check again, make sure there's no other comment. Okay. I see no other public comment at this time. So we're going to go to board and staff communication, and we'll start with the general manager's report. We're welcoming for her first official meeting our new general manager, Marty Brown, and I will be pleased to receive her first general manager's report.
Good evening, board president, vice president, and board directors. So for this evening, I wanted to talk a little bit about the public safety building and the process and the progress that we're making with moving forward with that. As I've spoken to the board now, we're planning to, staff is going to be developing some level of financial analysis of various options, as well as providing kind of a needs assessment and an explanation of the regulatory framework in which we find ourselves in today, both for police and just administration in general, and expectations for both of those disciplines. So we'll be bringing that back to the board in March and doing a public presentation at the March board meeting. And then in addition to that, of course, after that, we will be then scheduling a joint board meeting, as we were directed, both myself and General Manager Bill Hansel from the fire district. We'll be working with both boards to schedule a joint board meeting after the March regular board meeting of our district, and have a facilitated dialogue and discussion around the progress that's been made with the design of the public safety building and the needs of both departments. So we'll be looking forward to that. And so that's kind of the next steps for the public safety building. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. And then just a couple of other quick items. I wanted to, Kathleen Korsak, if everybody knows her, who was the budget manager in the past, is back, joined the district again as of this past Monday, February 8th. And so she'll be working part-time with me, helping to, get everything shipshape in the finance department. And then I wanted to also announce to the public, especially, that we're going to be launching a monthly newsletter. I'm shooting for March, so stay tuned. I'm going to be posting on the district website an opportunity for people to sign up and join a electronic constant contacts monthly newsletter with information about the district. And so I hope that that will actually add to some of the transparency concerns that I've heard both tonight and as well on the January board meeting that I attended when my contract was approved. And I'm hoping that that's going to really help bring more communication and transparency to the district and the board and the community. And lastly, there's been some concerns about trash pickup in the park, and I just wanted to let you know that trash pickup has resumed. I think that there had been a pause on that during the renovation of the community center building, and so that has been started back up again. We'll have regular service, and we did an emergency cleanup pickup this week. So we look forward to making sure the park stays clean and trash receptacles stay empty. And that's pretty much concludes my general manager's report.
If I could ask, with Constant Contact, that's a new program for us, is that correct, for the district?
I believe it is. I don't know. I haven't checked out whether you're using it or not, but I don't think you are from the little bit of information I do have. Yeah.
I would just like to see if we could find a way so that folks who have already signed up for the agenda, I do believe that people should proactively have to sign up for a newsletter as well. I think privacy and best practices would require that. But if you decide to start using Constant Contact, it may be that we import the list of people who have signed up for the agenda, and then Constant Contact could be used to manage the agenda list as well as the newsletter list.
Linnell and I did talk about doing that, and then people could unsubscribe if they didn't want to get it, of course, but that would be a great first launch because there's about 50 people, I believe, on that list.
Okay. We will move now to Chief of Police, Interim Chief of Police Schultz's report. Welcome, good evening, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, appreciate it. So first of all, I wanted to let the board and the public know that I completed the annual use of force report, and I placed it on the district website under the police section of the policy and procedure. The report was actually unremarkable. There were no use of force incidents by Kensington police officers in 2020. The Kensington police officers made 15 arrests, 8 of which were felony arrests. However, I did conclude 3 deficiencies that we will have to address at some point in the near future. Although the officers meet the minimum state requirements for training in weaponless defense, more training in de-escalation procedures, methods of arrest, and control holds should be conducted on a regular basis. This training will enhance the officers' confidence and mental preparedness while lessening the chances of them having to resort to higher levels of use of force to effect arrest. As you know, the California legislature adopted Assembly Bill 395, and part of that was that all officers shall use all available resources and techniques if reasonably safe and feasible to objectively reasonable officer. So one of the problems is that officers in Kensington are not issued tasers. Tasers are sometimes controversial in some cities and districts. However, it's one of these industry standards now that we're going to face liability if we don't consider it, because departments are now being sued for not having that available use of force. And quite frankly, over 15,000 law enforcement agencies around the world use tasers. And there was a report by the Police Executive Research Forum that showed police departments that deployed tasers saw a 76% decrease in officer injuries. And another study showed 48% decrease in injuries to suspects. And there are many documented cases where the officer is able to subdue a violent suspect without deadly force because they were equipped with tasers. And lastly, the third deficiency I found is that KPD does not employ after-action reports. After-action reports should be completed at the end of every training cycle that is done in this in-house firearms and weaponless defense. This thoroughly documents the training for later use and protects the district from liability. So in conclusion, it's easy to dismiss equipment and training needs when the department's had no use of force, but that is when unfortunate incidents occur, and then the district receives all the liability that goes with that, and actually probably costs them more in the long run not to address these issues. The taser and additional training require unbudgeted monies and will be addressed through the budget process. It's not my intention to discuss these items tonight, just to let you know that this use of force report review was done. And the after action report costs no money to the district, and that was already enacted by the police department. So my second item is just a couple brief information. We just received a confirmation letter from our field training manual was officially certified by the Peace Officers and Standards and Training for the first time since 2009. Sergeant Nath completed this lengthy project, and he did a great job. Also, KPD has received the safe policing certification from the Department of Justice, making us eligible for discretionary grant funding. That was a requirement to receive grants in the future. My letter requesting the certification and DOJ's follow-up certification email has been posted on the police department's policy section of the district website, if anybody would like to view that. And then it's my pleasure to introduce to you and swear in 3 officers, two new employees, and 1 promotion. So what I would like to do is just introduce each officer, and then at the end of it, I'll swear them in for everybody. And then if you have any questions of them, you can ask them. So can I have Officer Feng Ho? So Officer Feng Ho was hired on November 2nd, 2020. He was raised in the Bay Area and is currently working full-time at NASA Ames in Mountain View for their Protective Services Department. Feng was a former Stockton Unified School District police officer where he was assigned to numerous schools within the district. On his days off, Feng enjoys spending time with his family, hiking, and watching football. Feng is currently in the field training program and volunteers over 10 hours a week. Feng is single and currently lives in Union City. Pinning his badge on will be his younger brother, Jaden. Jaden, would you like to meet Officer Ho? All right, congratulations. Thank you. If I can have Sergeant Amit Nath. Sergeant Amit Nath was promoted to sergeant on January 4th of this year. Amit has prior experience with the Richmond Police Department and has done an outstanding job for the Kensington Police Department. He has also been instrumental in assisting me in improving the operations of the department. He has several letters of appreciation and commendation during his career, and I recently issued him the Leadership Award for his leadership in the department in 2020. He has 2 associate's degrees, 1 in general education, 1 in electronic engineering. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice and is registering for classes for his master's degree in administrative leadership. Amit has been married to his wife, Lily, for 11 years and has a 10-year-old daughter, Jasleen, 8-year-old son, Devin, a 3-year-old son, Dominic, and a baby coming in May. So he has a full house. Pinning his badge on him will be Lily and his children. Congratulations, sir. Captain Mike Gankas. Captain Mike Gankas has over 20 years experience in law enforcement, including experience as a commander and a lieutenant. He supervised numerous units, divisions, including Patrol, Youth and Education Services Unit, Code Enforcement Unit, Traffic Division, Detective Division, and Gang Unit, among others. In addition, he has a command level experience in the Patrol Division, Community Outreach Unit, Administration, Training, and Internal Affairs. He's extremely community oriented and has received numerous awards and commendation. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice management and will be graduating with a master's degree in organizational leadership later in 2021. He is a graduate of the Sherman Block Supervisory Leadership Institute and will graduate from the Post Command College class of 67 later this year. Mike has a lot of well-rounded experience and he will be an asset to this organization. In fact, he has already made a positive impact on the organization. Mike lives with his family in the Bay Area. I will be pinning Mike's badge on. Everybody can come out here. 6 feet apart, please. So raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Mike Alvarez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without mental reservation and purpose or evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully
well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter
upon which I am about to enter
as a police officer
as a police officer
for the District of Kensington.
for the District of Kensington.
Congratulations, all of you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, board members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of all the board and the residents of Kensington, thank you very much and welcome to those who are new, and congratulations to Sergeant Nath.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, we will go to board comments and
I just have one quick
sure.
introduction. There's I want to talk about a prior homicide that the district had in 2011. Mr. Eric Elliott was murdered on March 12, 2011 at 59 Arlington Avenue. The murder has gone unsolved. In reviewing the details of the case, there are some things investigators could have done better. The prior interim chief, Steve Simpkins, solicited the assistance of Rick Jackson, a 30-year homicide detective from LAPD, to look at the case. Recently, Sergeant Nath, Captain Gancass, and I met with Mr. Jackson. He gave us his professional assessment of the case. In addition, Captain Gancass and I have a lot of experience in homicide investigations, and we also review in the case file. The case is not closed, but there are obstacles because of the amount of time that has passed. Eric Elliott's sister is in the audience and has kept in contact with Kensington's police chiefs on her brother's case. I have discussed the case with her on a few times, and I sympathize to what she has been going through the last 10 years. It is her desire to address the board on behalf of her brother. Therefore, with President Hassai's approval, I would like to give Ms. Elliott a chance to speak.
Yes, I will go to the attendee list and find her. It's possible that she is here and has not signed in under her name. There are a few things I don't recognize, like Moto G7. So Miss Elliott, if you're in the audience, could you please use your function to raise your hand? Because I don't see you by name here. Oh, there you are. Okay, that is you. All right. Okay, you should be able to speak now, and thank you and welcome. And I've also given her an indulgence to go a little longer if she should go beyond 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm on my phone, so I can only see a couple of people at a time. I'm not sure how to change it, so.
We can hear you fine, and so you don't have to worry about seeing us. We can hear you very clearly.
Okay. I just wanted to address the board. I'm not quite sure why, but when I realized that it had been 10 years, and I have been wanting to do a memorial. Initially, I wanted to do it in the park on the spot where my brother lost his life, but I realized that might not be possible because it's kind of an off the beaten path spot. But I also wanted to address the board because with all of the good changes that are happening, it really, there has been a real contrast that I've seen compared to the years prior, starting with when Steve Simpkins was brought on board and everything since. Losing a brother, a son to homicide before his time is probably one of the most hellish experiences anyone can go through. My mother lost her firstborn, and she basically never recovered, and she died 21 months later. I, being his sister, had to take responsibility for staying in touch with the police, and I have done so for the last 10 years. I've met regularly with all of the chiefs, Harmon, Hart, Hull, and then Simpkins. I always believed them when they said that the case was ongoing and active. Unfortunately, in the very beginning, because there aren't a lot of homicides in Kensington, I haven't been traditionally, the Kensington Police Department was ill-equipped to work a homicide case. And in the very beginning, after my brother was killed, there were a lot of missteps. And one of which was that it was never put in the media. And another was that evidence wasn't collected from the scene because assumptions were made about how he died. And that's partly the coroner who didn't examine him. And so days were lost, evidence wasn't collected. And so I'm not trying to cast stones and beat a dead horse. But what I am saying is that it feels really, really good to speak with people like Steve Simpkins and Walt Schuld, because they have dealt with victims before, and they've dealt with homicides before. And what I'm trying to explain, the reason I wanted to talk to the board was that all throughout the last 10 years, it's always been the board that is the top of the food chain. You approved a reward, and I'm grateful for that. And any budgetary issues that might come up, like extra investigation, like analysis, lab analysis for the case, or any of that is going to be approved by you. And I know, and I always got the impression that you were the boss of the chief. So I wanted to address you and say that I really appreciate you hiring police with experience and in proper procedure and experience in solving homicides. Because, when someone in your family is killed, you get swift justice, then that could be a chance for you to have some peace and to maybe even move on with your life. But in my case, it feels like the case has never really been worked, because the Kensington police were understaffed. They didn't have any homicide detectives on staff. And so I kept believing and hoping, but I just want you to know that, times are changing, and the world is not maybe as safe as it used to be. Kensington is not maybe as safe as it used to be. And so I really believe that we need to have police, because it's been really hard to watch while nothing was being done to bring justice for my brother. And I don't mean to badmouth anybody in particular or any of the police in Kensington. Barrows has always been very nice. He did the best he could, but a homicide detective is somebody who has solved homicides in the past, and their brain works in a very special way where they have the ability to work a case. And if you haven't done it, you just can't do it. It's just, anyway, I
want to thank you. I know you spoke with Chief Walt Schuld, and Chief Schuld asked to have you be able to be part of his time for this evening. And I appreciate you coming and talking to us about something that's obviously still, as it should be, very difficult. It's never going to, I'm sure that it's never going to really be easy. And we appreciate you coming. I want to give you a chance just to make a wrap-up comment, because we're at 5 minutes.
Okay.
A little over.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I would have set my timer on my phone.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I wanted to make sure that if you wanted to wrap up with a closing comment, I gave you another minute or chance.
I just hope that I've made it clear that, what's going on now is good, and that the last 10 years has had a profound, it's had an impact on my life. And because I have been running to the police department regularly for 10 years. So I would like to finish by saying that if you could consider allowing me to put a memorial for my brother. My most recent thinking is that it would be
that's later in our agenda, so I have to ask you not to speak about that at this time, because this is for items that are not on the agenda and that relate to Chief Schuld's report, and we'll be addressing that issue later.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you again for coming and speaking with Chief Schuld. Chief Schuld, do you have anything else that you need to speak about as part of your report?
No.
Okay. We are going to go to Board of Director comments. And if you have a comment and want to raise your hand, please do so. I won't call on you otherwise, because I don't want to call on directors who don't want to speak. But if you have anything to say, please raise your hand. All right. Well, I do, so I will go ahead. I want to say that we continue as a district to solidify the administration and governance reforms, and clearly the hiring of Ms. Marty Brown as our second permanent independent general manager is part of that, and welcoming back Catherine Korsak, who was the district's first finance and business manager, is part of those efforts. And as we enhance our professional staff, we continue to adjust other elements of our governance. And as was referenced by some members of the public, the board voted last month to eliminate our last standing committee, the Finance Committee, following the annual expiration of the members' terms in December. And the committee was a longstanding feature of our governance and served it well by volunteering their experience in finance at a time when our administrative staff lacked such a capacity. And we certainly owe a debt of gratitude to the longstanding members of that committee for their service. Today, however, we have professional staff with expertise in public finance. With the sunsetting of the standing committee, I want to assure the residents that as president of the board and as the community outreach coordinator, it is my intent to open up more opportunities for public input, not fewer. And at the last board meeting, we passed a policy that requires us to have a first reading of the budget a month before we vote on it, which provides residents with 2 chances for comment. And in addition, I'll be working with Ms. Brown to hold 1 or more budget workshops to provide a forum for more detailed discussion of the budget, and a forum that I hope will also educate many of our citizens who don't come to these meetings regularly about our budget. For the long-term forecasting on specialized questions such as pension obligations or borrowing, we certainly can rely on experts, as we have in the past, to advise the board with great efficiency. Looking ahead, Kensington faces a challenging fiscal environment with a fully staffed police department, underfunded park maintenance budget, uncertain housing for our police and administrative staff, and a strong desire of many in the community to take ownership of the public paths. As our President Joe Biden says in a quote he ascribes to his dad, "Don't tell me your values, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value." I look forward to working with all of our residents to meet our challenges responsibly in a way that reflects our best aspirations. And I see that end of my comment, and I see Director Deppie would like to speak, so I am going to go ahead and unmute yourself. Chris, you should be able to speak.
All right, thanks. I was slow on the click to raise my hand. I just have a couple of things. At the last meeting, we discussed with John Joya having a meeting, sort of a joint meeting. And at that discussion, I said, we're still waiting for some important pieces of information, namely the offers of dedication. And that it doesn't really make sense to have a meeting until we get those, because that will probably raise more questions, and then I'll have a chance to discuss with our council about really what we'll need after that. So just to let everybody know, I still haven't received the offers of dedication from Supervisor Joya. I'll send him an email tomorrow and remind him. I think he's probably pretty busy with setting up vaccinations and a lot of other things. So while it may seem important, it's probably not on his top 10 priorities. So I think it's understandable. And the other issue is, or the other thing is, Rochelle and I discussed that it's probably a good idea to have a community meeting about the pass in the springtime. I think that would be a great venue to sort of present all the information and discuss with the community possibly ways forward. It really should come after any goal setting meeting we do, and after the joint meeting about the public safety building, if and when that happens. So that's of course still to be determined, but that's our desire, and we think that would be the best way forward, would be to have a community path meeting in the spring.
Would anything preclude us from having the discussion with the county with Supervisor Joya before that public meeting, so we could present that information in full?
No, I think that as much information we get before the meeting would be great. Yeah, so there's nothing precluding it. No, it's the offers of dedication. Oh, sorry, the offers of dedication are the piece of information that I'm waiting for, that we'll need before we really do any other meetings.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Okay. So the first item on our agenda would be the consent calendar, to consider approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of January 14th, and to which also included the financial reports for the month of December 2020. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Are there anyone want to pull anything off the consent calendar? Okay. I'll make a motion that we adopt items on the consent calendar. And approve items on the consent calendar. Chris?
No, I do have one correction.
Okay.
Addition, actually. On page 4 or 5, the item 8, receive an update from board members, Deputy and Sheriff SWAT regarding the paths. At the end, it says the board gave direction to staff to brief incoming General Manager Marty Brown and then schedule a meeting with Supervisor Joya after KPPCSD's next board meeting, and depending on the scheduling of the joint meeting with the KFPD board, it should reference the fact that, is what I just said in my board comments, that meeting really is dependent upon us getting the offers of dedication.
Okay. So our clerk is attending, and we'll make note of that. That was something you said during the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, with that change noted, I'll make a motion again that we adopt and approve the items on the consent calendar, as I said, with the change that Director Deppie has requested related to the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll take roll. Director Natoli. Sorry, you have to. Right, you should all be able to unmute yourselves. I'm having a little trouble doing it myself. Sorry.
Yes.
Director Sharaswat.
Yes.
Director Madavi.
Aye.
Director Deppie.
Yes.
And I vote yes, so we are 5-0. The consent calendar has been adopted. Okay. And now we are going to receive the financial reports for the month of December. Sorry, not that. We're going to be having our receiving the and approving or looking to approve the 2020-2021 mid-year budget review. And that item will be introduced by General Manager Brown.
Good evening. So the item here before you is a mid-year budget review to take a look at the first 6 months of the fiscal year. This was, as always is with budgets, this was a team effort. The presentation and PowerPoint will be provided by Jessie Kim, who is our finance consultant from Mays and Associates, and she'll be pitch hitting. I believe Catherine's going to help her out with the PowerPoint presentation in this virtual world that we're in. And it will be a team effort because there's different pieces of the mid-year budget that you may all have questions about. And so the police chief will be involved, as well as Catherine, and to some extent myself. So I think there's no big surprises here. I think you'll find there's a few line items that are fairly significantly underspent. And I think that has a lot to do with just the transition, COVID, the community center being closed and not rented, really at all. Things like that, you'll find that probably will look different in the new fiscal year. So really the only ultimate recommendation is to transfer $1.2 million from basically the district's checking account into our LAIF, longer term savings account. And there are no other amendments recommended at this time. There were no pressing needs in any of the departments prior to preparing the next year's budget. So it seemed to be no reason to make any budget amendments. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jessie to provide the PowerPoint presentation.
So folks should be able to see on their screen the presentation.
Okay, good evening, President, Vice President, and Board of Directors. My name is Jessie. I'm working as an accounting services manager at Mays and have worked for the district since January 2020. So I would like to thank you for having me today, and it is a great pleasure to present the report today. The presentation is for mid-year budget review for the period of July 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, fiscal year ending 2021. We can go to the next slide. This presentation is to provide an overview of the district budgeted versus actual for the first 2 quarters of fiscal year ending 2021 to ensure that the district is constantly monitoring and on track with its goals. For the revenue, the district has collected $3,385,051, and it's 96% of the budget. We collected 100% of levy tax, special tax, and Measure G tax for the current fiscal year, and are looking for collecting more from police grant interest as budgeted by end of this fiscal year. For the expenses, the district has spent $1 million. Oh, we can go back to District has spent $1,857,882, and it's 54% of the budget. So we are over budget on the expenses by 4% because of overtime during the first quarter, insurance expenses and workers' comp, they were prepaid for the whole fiscal years. We can go to the next slide. The next slide shows the graph in regards where we are on the budget. We can see revenue is on 96% of the budget and total expenses is on 54% of the budget. Can go to the next slide. The next slide shows more detailed items in revenue. We are on 23% of the budget for district activities revenue. It's under budget because we received the December franchise fees from Bayview Refuse in January 2021. We are on 74% of the budget for park and recreation activities revenue. The district collected all special taxes budgeted for park and recreation, but due to COVID-19, was not able to operate the community center as planned. So community center revenue is 0 and under budget by 15,000. And we are on 98% of the budget for the police activities revenue. And in the next slide, you can see the detailed numbers that constitute the revenue. 3.3 million from police activities, 42,000 from park and recreation activities, and 15,000 from district activities. The next slide shows more detailed items in expenses. We are on 13% of the budget for other capital outlay, 100% of the budget for community center, 46% of the budget for district expenses, 42% of the budget for park and recreation expenses, 12% of the budget for park and recreation salary and benefits, 54% and 51% of the budget for other police expenses and police salary and benefits, respectively. And the next slide shows the actual amount for each category. 1.1 million for police salary and benefits, 234,000 for other police expenses, 1,200 for park salary and benefits, 62,000 for park and recreation expenses, 285,000 for district expenses, 140,000 for community center, and 5,900 for other capital outlay that's other than community center related expenses. The next slide shows the comparison between current fiscal year and prior fiscal year. We collected 50% of what we collected in last fiscal year from district activities and collected a little more than last fiscal year from park and recreation activities and police activities. And the details on the next slide. The district collected 50% compared to the last fiscal year because we had a lot more interest income from last year. In the next slide shows the graph comparing current fiscal year to the last fiscal year by category. Green bars represent current fiscal year and the blue bars represent last fiscal year. So we spend more on police salary and benefits, park and recreation expenses, and spend less on other police expenses, park and recreation salary and benefits, district expenses, and capital outlay. And the next slide shows the details and percentage. We spend significantly more on park and recreation expenses because of the tennis court built in the current fiscal year. So the next slide. So based on current situation, as Marty mentioned, STEP recommends to transfer 1.2 million from the district general fund to its LAVE account so we can utilize the fund more efficiently. And that is all I have. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Marty, is this the time? Do you have anything else to add at this point, or should we go to board questions and then public comment, public questions? You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I have nothing else to add. Yes, please, let's move forward with comments and questions.
Okay, I want to give board members an opportunity to pose questions to Ms. Kim or to others on our staff who could answer them. So please raise your hand and I will call on you in turn. Director Madabi.
Hi, I just was wondering, what is the current value in the LAIF and in the checkbook accounts?
LAIF balance as of January, the balance was 300,000 roughly.
That's the LAIF.
Yes.
And then the checking is currently at Because that the LAIF is the savings and then there's the checking account.
Yeah, oh, I can check now.
It's approximately 1.3 million. And so we talked about leaving in about 100,000 just for, cash flow purposes. And yeah, and then transferring 1.2 over to the LAIF so we can increase our interest income.
For
Yeah.
those who aren't familiar, I wonder if someone could just explain the acronym LAIF for people in the audience.
Yes, I wrote it somewhere. It's the Local Agency
Investment Fund.
Investment Fund. Thank you.
That's kind of like our savings account.
Yeah, and it's the state. That is a state account that all public jurisdictions, almost all of them, use throughout the state as their quote savings account.
Director Madavi, anything further?
No, that was the primary thing. And I'm assuming everything, it sounds like all the public safety building stuff is still undergoing calculations right now.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, Director Sharis-Watt.
Hello. Thank you, Jesse. Welcome back, Catherine. I am wondering, and Marty, you can tell me, categories 427, and I'm sorry, my printouts are a little odd, 427 and 647. 647 is the rental of the building. I'm wondering, we have budgeted item income in those categories, and I think 427 is like 15,000.
That's correct.
I'm thinking that we should just zero that out because we're not going to, I don't believe we're going to get income in this fiscal year for the building. So I'm wondering if it makes sense to eliminate those from our thinking.
Sure, we can do that. I mean, I think you're correct. I think it makes sense. I don't think we're expecting a sudden rush or an ability to even rent out the community center.
That's
So,
what I think it's not going to happen. So I didn't maybe want to rely on it. The other question I find 656 category for utilities, we're at 56%, which I find a little bit odd. Maybe utilities have really gone up in terms of, but the community center until last week was not occupied with any regularity. Everything's on a timer, all the switches. So everything turns off. If I've gone into the building, within 20 minutes, it should all turn off. So that seems peculiarly high. I know we have the bathroom, but it just seems, that we're at 56% partway through the year. So just something I'm just wondering about.
I guess one question I would ask about that is it that all utilities for the district were just kind of apportioned through different areas, or these are actually just the utilities for the community center? Or
The 656 is for the park, so that would include East Bay Mud, and East Bay Mud over the summer is pretty high. I can't actually get into QuickBooks right this second, so I would be able to answer it a little bit more in detail if I could get into QuickBooks, but off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking.
I think you're right. East Bay Mud's gone up terrifically.
It's in the water. Water has been really expensive over the summer, especially summer months. So that is probably what it is.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Wondering, I don't know why we didn't budget the bond. I'm confused why we didn't, and I just,
It should, the pension obligation bond?
No, we did do that bond, but the 700, we have nothing that we, were we assuming that the bond was ending and that we were finished with 700 through 730? And then, or did this, have we not budgeted?
So in the past, I believe the bond was always taken out of the budget. It was never included in the analysis. This is taken directly from QuickBooks. It's just like how the community center was always taken out and reported kind of separately to everyone. So I think this report is just a little bit different, and that's why. So the bond has always been in the financials, you know, in QuickBooks and in the system, but when they've reported it, they haven't shown it.
Okay.
So this is the first time that it's ever been shown, but that bond is closing out. I believe it closed out in September. So
Okay, great. Perfect. That's why I just wanted to make sure that we were not leaving things out that we should be putting in. So those were my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Director Deppie.
Right. My question is about account 506 overtime. And it looks like the overtime now is at 124% of budget. And I remember some meetings ago, there was a lot of overtime, and we were basically assured that pretty much was all the overtime for the year. And we were pretty much assured that we really weren't going to need much overtime anymore, given, of course, that we have a full complement of officers. So I'm wondering what's going on with that.
Yes, well, my sheet says it's 102% of the budget. So since I discussed the overtime the last time, there's only been less than $2,000 in overtime used, and I don't. The POA is still working with me on that overtime, so we don't go way over budget on that. Like I said before, that was a perfect storm when
okay,
all
sorry.
overtime.
Right.
All right. Any other director comments at this time before we go to the public? Okay. And sorry, Director Modavi, before we go on, go ahead.
This was a technical question. Like, are we anticipating like how much more maybe in overtime? Like, should we allocate 5,000 or something to that account to, like, you know, account for normal usage of overtime, because overtime is also unavoidable to some extent?
I think I'll go to the general manager if the POA says that they do not want to take time off for the overtime they work, or if they want to start getting paid again. Then I'll go to the general manager and request that money from another line item be transferred in there. I don't think it's necessary right now.
Okay, I just
And I
wanted,
agree.
like, as a formality check, because that's how the budget generally works.
Right.
Okay. All right. We'll go to the attendees. Any members of the public wish to comment? Okay, I see Linda Lipscomb. Give me 1 second to find her again. Okay, Linda, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you so much. This is not my forte, so let me ask it on budgeting, and it's why I so value the Finance Committee. Why don't we budget what we have to pay on the bond? I mean, is there some reason that it's taken out of the budget? That's number one, because it's a cash outlay, isn't it? It's revenue that has to be transferred to retire this obligation. That's number one. Number two, just generally, and this is directed to Ms. Kim, are there any red flags? Do we have any worries about a deficit here? Thank you very much.
Well, let me take a step. Do you want me to try to answer that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So I think the point about the bond wasn't that it's not budgeted for, it was merely that it isn't reflected in the traditional mid-year budget review, but it has to be budgeted for. I mean, you can't have a bond payment and not budget for it, but oftentimes in this kind of a review process, it isn't necessarily shown as part of your mid-year budget review, but it is in the budget. And I think that's what Catherine was sort of trying to say earlier. And then I think that, I mean, Jesse, feel free to chime in on the other question. I don't see any flags as a general manager. I don't see anything that, I see some structural things that I definitely, Catherine and I have already started talking about that could be done better and differently, and actually to bring some more of the transparency that you're talking about. But flags in terms of a deficit or a structural deficit, no, I don't see any flags like that at all. And Jesse, I don't know, you feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I don't see any worry about deficits. We are on track on expenses.
And also,
May
I would just like to to clarify that there are two different bonds that we're talking about. So there's the pension obligation bond, and that is budgeted up under count 529. So that one, that was the new bond that was taken out to pay off the pension liability with CalPERS. And then there was the old bond that was that park bond that was from, years ago. And so that one was the one that was traditionally, I think in Tony Constanturo's budget in the past, it was taken out as a separate kind of item, but it wasn't that it was taken out of the budget. It just wasn't shown in this same format. And so that was where the confusion lied. And so that park bond is what will be closing out this year. So I believe in September. But I just started back up on Monday. So I am getting back reacquainted with what has gone on since then. So I hope that clarifies things for you, Linda.
So basically what you're saying is the pension obligation bond is reflected in the budget at section 529.
Yeah.
The bond which is about to be retired, God bless us all on that. If that is the case by the park, that will be retired in September, and that is not, that is taken in or accounted for in some other fashion. Okay, that, I think that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Okay. Any other members of the public wish to make a comment or ask a question about the budget presentation? Okay. I do not see any. Do we have a motion to approve the 2020-21 mid-year budget review with an amendment that Director Sheriff Watt proposed, which is to zero out the revenue line to zero for the community center? And I see that Director Sheriff Watt has raised her hand.
Well, I think you made a great motion there. So can I just second it?
That would be fine with me. Okay. I will take roll. Please make sure you're unmuted. Director Sheriff Watt.
Yes.
Director Natoli.
Yes.
Director Deppie.
Yes.
Director Madavi.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the mid-year budget is approved by a vote of 5-0. And we have kind of, sorry.
May I make a motion that we authorize the movement of $1.2 million from our checking account to LAIF? Do we need to do that, Marty? You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, well, it's basically embedded in the resolution by all amendments, including that recommendation.
Okay, great.
Now we have rather a fun, I would say, for our town, a fun agenda item. Interim Chief of Police Schuld will introduce this item, which is to discuss and recommended by the staff to approve a new Kensington Police Department logo design and associated $1,900 cost to replace patches on police uniforms. So Chief Schuld, please take it away.
Thank you. So the police department currently, well, you probably already know this, but I will go through it. The police department currently deploys a shoulder patch approved in 1953 that is blue and gold with a gold castle, and it has Old English script with the words Kensington Police. And all the research that we did, this castle has nothing to do with Kensington since it's been established. So for brand consistency and to present a more contemporary and professional appearance, staff designed a KPD logo patch that incorporates the district's current logo, consisting of a dark blue background with a silver outline and the lettering that reads Kensington, California, established 1946. Now, 1946, I want to make it clear, is when the Kensington Police Protection was established. So in the center of the patch, there's a star with the district logo. And if you haven't seen the agenda, I'll just hold it up briefly. That is a prototype of the patch. And I think it looks very good and professional. If the board approves, staff will slowly make changes to stationery and documents over time at virtually no cost to the district. We're getting high resolution picture of this so we can do our own stationery. So that won't cost anything. There's going to be miscellaneous costs, but I don't anticipate a lot. The two cars that have the old logo on the car, I don't think we're going to change because we'd have to paint one of the doors and it'll be too cost prohibitive. So we'll just transition those out at a later time. The cost to replace the shoulder and star patches and service and sergeant stripes is approximately $1,500. In negotiating with the POA, they agreed to cover any costs in replacing the shoulder and star patches and the sergeant and service stripes if the district agrees to pay for the costs of replacing the shoulder patches of the first two shirts and jacket. This costs the district approximately $330 for a total cost of no more than $1,900. There are sufficient monies in the budget to cover this line item under 594 community policing. Due to COVID, we have not had our regular community policing programs, and we have only spent $120 or 3% of that line item for this fiscal year. I'd be happy to answer any questions public or board may have.
Any questions or comments from the board first?
I'll jump in. I think it looks fabulous. Thank you so much, Chief Schold, for taking this on and moving us into the 21st century. I'm sure there's a ye old English pub that is missing its font, but it's lovely. And yeah, I think it's great. And I think if you want to order face masks with that on, I would approve that too. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right, we'll go over to the public. I'll talk to us, Director Modavi. Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks good. Just one tiny comment, because I do sometimes graphic design things. When you minimize it too much, you lose the Golden Gate Bridge. So you might just need a second version of the file that is compensating for that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, David Bergen, I'm going to unmute you, and I know you should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead, David.
Hi there. I really like the new logo, and I think it's well worth the cost, and that's basically it. I really like it. Oh yes, could someone show it here on this session?
Yeah, Chief Schold
There it is.
a moment ago, and it is in the agenda packet. It's available.
Right.
Online.
I saw it in the packet, but I didn't see it on the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Walt.
Thank you.
Okay. And Linda Lipscomb, I saw her hand up earlier, I think, unless that was left over. Let me just double check. It doesn't look like Linda's hand is up any longer. So I don't, oh yes, it is. Okay. Linda.
Thank you. Sorry to monopolize so much time. This is my opportunity to thank and congratulate.
Oh, you just muted yourself. Oh, or maybe I did. Sorry, Linda, go ahead.
Got me now?
Yes, we do.
All right, good. Thank you. This is my opportunity to thank and congratulate Chief Schold in the induction and promotion of the new officers. Bravo for that. And I think a good commemorative thing is to redesign the patch in the way suggested. And I especially like Director Modavi's suggestion that the Golden Gate be a little overemphasized for the purposes of perspective, but make it a little more prominent there. I think that's great. So thank you so much. I am thrilled to welcome these new officers and promotees. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one last call for any public comments. Okay, and any further board comment? I will echo my appreciation and admiration of the redesign. I think it's great. Nice to see how the revised district's logo, which actually there was no district logo really before this one. It was just the police department logo. So nice to see how it was tied together so well. All right, so we do need a motion. Anyone is free to make it. Well, I guess, is there, let's see, do we actually need a motion? I guess we do. I guess, do we direct staff to proceed without a motion, or do we actually need a motion on this one? Sorry.
If you could make a motion, since it's money, that would be helpful.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the new KPD logo presented today and an associated up to $1,900 in cost to replace patches on police uniforms. Do I have a second?
Sylvia?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, because if this is covered by a pre-existing budget item for the police, do we really need, I mean, I'm happy to take a vote on it, but do we really need to approve it if it's under his authority to spend it?
Well, we are approving the design as well.
Okay.
And there's no harm in approving
Okay.
this particular expense.
Sure. Then I move that we approve the design and the expenditure of the new logo.
I moved. Could you second?
I second, yes.
Thank you. All right, we'll take a roll call vote on this matter. Director Deppie,
Yes.
Director Natoli,
Yes.
Director Saraswat,
Yes.
Director Modavi,
Aye.
and I vote aye. We are approved this logo and the expenditure by a vote of 5-0. Okay, the last item on our agenda this evening is around a memorial dedication and donation policy. This is something that actually quite some time ago, Director Saraswat and I had noticed and discussed and has come up again, as you heard from Miss Elliott's presentation as part of Chief Shuld's report. So General Manager Brown, please introduce this item.
Sorry, there we go. Yes, certainly. So this started out with a conversation that I had a couple of times with Ms. Elliott, and then speaking to you directly, President Hassai, it seemed like there's a need for it in the district. And so I was just looking to see if the board would like to direct staff to work on developing a policy that deals with the issue of memorials, dedications, and potential donations by the public and the community and the residents of Kensington. And so that there's a consistent manner in which memorials and dedications are handled, as well as donations that are given. Oftentimes, as I'm sure you're aware, community members have donations to give, but jurisdictions don't always have a place for them. They don't necessarily always make sense for those jurisdictions. So having a policy in place and a criteria for consideration for all three of those is, usually very helpful to bring, make sure that it's a consistent approach and fair and equitable. So I'm just proposing that we move forward with directing staff to take a first stab at drafting a policy. And if you have any specific feedback or thoughts on things that you'd love to see or don't want to see, then that would be certainly very helpful feedback tonight as well.
Director Saraswat.
Yes, thank you so much, President Hassai and General Manager Brown, for bringing this up. It is very timely, unfortunately, for Miss Elliott, but it also is an issue that, as Sylvia was saying, came up as long ago as 6 years ago, when we had a resident looking to possibly donate a bench and dedicate a bench, and we had no policy. We still don't, but a policy established for who got dedications on benches and what cost the requester was to manage and what cost possibly the district would have, and whether or not we could, how long those dedications had to be, and that kind of thing. So I think this is timely and and very appropriate.
Any other board comment, discussion, questions? I believe I may have mentioned there are many, jurisdictions that have policies like this. And of course, a great place to start is with our own California Special District Association, because there are many park districts there, and they have in the past provided us with template policies. So they are a great resource, and any of us could help you connect to them if you need that. I will go to the public now and just see if there is any public comment on the item that was presented by General Manager Brown. I don't see any. So I believe that if all directors are in agreement, we would like to direct General Manager Brown to proceed as she has outlined in her report in this item to present and prepare a memorial dedication and donation policy. Director Mahdavi?
Yeah, just one thought. I agree with that. I was just wondering, would it also, it'd probably be wise to also run it through the county, because since we're also under their jurisdiction to some degree. Just the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so hearing no objection, the board is given direction to staff to proceed as we have outlined. So that is the conclusion of our February regular meeting. Our next regular meeting will be held on March 11th, 2021. We look forward to seeing you then and there. And thank you very much for your time and attention and your attendance this evening at our meeting. It is 8:23 p.m. Good night all. And again, thank you all. Good night.